Hi, I'm Mark. Welcome back to Foothill Paint Fabrication. Well, we're back on Project Ruby and we're getting one step closer to spraying some epoxy. You can see the parts behind me are still patiently waiting to be prepped for epoxy, but we have only one more little project to do before we can mix them up and I can get a spray gun in my hand again. Kind of itching to do some spraying, so I want to get this stuff done. So we have the filler panel, and as you guys know, I want to get the underside of this sprayed with epoxy before we put it on the car. So today we're going to be doing the final fit up. We will not be installing it, but we have a lot of sheet metal to trim and a lot of places to get ready. So when after the underside sprayed, all we got to do is clean up some edges and really get it spot welded and welded in. So let's jump over there. We'll take a look at what needs to be done, and we're going to just start going piece by piece on this and getting this fitted in here just right. Okay, I got most of the dents taken out from the shipping damage, so I think it's looking pretty good. Let's drop it in here. We got to kind of slide it underneath this window channel and get those drains to clear. It sits down in here pretty nice, so it's looking really good. I'm liking the way it fits. It's a little short on this distance, but I think we're going to work on it on this side, I think, and we'll fill that in and take care of it. But right now, I think it looks really good. So let's move in close. We're just going to do one side at a time, kind of get it to sit down and where we want it, and then scribe and start trimming it. And then once we get that, we can clamp this side, and then we can work on the other side. The last thing we want to do is have this thing move a little bit, get one side really good, and then it shifts. We trim the other side, we end up short on both sides. So let's come in close. We'll take a look what needs to be done just to start setting it down, and then we can start getting some trimming done. Okay, so you can see right here where the sail panel ends and then it drops down into the trunk channel, right? But if you see right there, it's bottoming out and this panel is rubbing on there. And there's a pretty big gap underneath there, so it's not sitting down as far as it could. And both sides are holding it up right there. So we need to get this down so we can even get close to figuring out where we need to scribe. So let me get that trimmed up and then we'll come back and we're going to look at what the game plan is to scribe to connect this new panel to Ruby. Okay, that panel sits down in here and it has a little wing, and this is recessed right here. I ran a wire wheel over this so you guys can see it a little better, but there is a recess right here and that sheet metal sits right here and it's spot welded to this piece right here. And then this is part of the original filler panel. Now, the filler panel I got did not come with this piece. So I had to, I left this on Ruby. As you guys remember, when I put the quarter panel on, this is connected and it got me my distance right and everything else. So both sides are about the same. So I left a little piece of the old filler panel. So we're going to set that on there now and we're going to decide, am I going to seam it right along this line right here so it'll go like that and we'll weld it right up here? Or do we need to drop down and try to do the work down inside here? Now we'll also, it'll go all the way over here and connect. So I think we need to cut that off square right there, and we may need to trim this up a little bit. But first what we're going to do is just get the new panel on, look from underneath, and kind of figure out what is the best way to connect the new to the old. So let's get that filler panel in here and take a look at us from underneath and see what we need to do. Okay, I got you facing straight up in the trunk here, and you can clearly see where I left the ledge right here, right? And the idea was originally to scribe along here and then cut and fit those two pieces and weld it from the top. I've been in and out of the trunk about 3 times and stand here staring at it for 20 minutes, but I was thinking maybe I should cut it along this corner right here and then trim the filler panel to match in the corner and then I can weld it from underside, laying in the trunk here, and that way I could weld this, and then the corner will be nice and clean because the weld will be on this side, less to grind. But that seemed like a pretty good idea till I went to the top side and looked at it. And the way this filler panel, the deficiencies in this filler panel, it kind of causes that to be more of a problem on one side than the other. So I think I'm going to kind of just clean this ledge up right here and make that nice and smooth. And then we're going to go ahead and scribe and then cut the filler panel. It may be a little risky, but I think it's the best move. And I'll weld it from the top or the bottom, I'm not sure. But I think the first step is just to kind of cut this along here on one side and get this to sit a little farther. Then we can scribe and then maybe cut over a little bit farther and just kind of slowly, inch by inch, get this done. But I'm kind of going back and forth on which way is the best way to do it. And then that's why it's best just to take your time, think about it, take a break maybe, and give it a lot of thought. So, but I think really, I want to clean this up right here real nice so it's nice and smooth. And then we'll get a scribe on it and get a little piece cut out of that. All right, before we do any scribing, I need to do something I was going to do weeks ago, was fix this filler panel. This, I don't know if you can tell, but here's the end of the old filler panel, and here's the little recessed ledge right here. So you can tell we're 3/8 of an inch, 1/2 inch short, right? It's interesting because the other side, it sticks too far over. I have to trim it to make it fit right. But this one, they kind of gypped me. So I think before we do any scribing and cutting over here, we're going to add some onto this, get it ground, and then trim to fit, and then we can move forward with scribing. I don't want to try to do it later. I'd rather have this the full size I want it, and then we can move forward. That way when I scribe, I'll have the piece I want to scribe and cut off instead of trying to patch it on later. We'll be able to scribe right up to that edge. So let's get this off and get a piece made up and see if I can't TIG weld that on there. All right, got a little piece of 19 gauge, just bent a little crease in it to match that right there, and clamped it and welded it up. Yeah, obviously I still need to do a lot of improvement on TIG welding, but hey, I'm getting better. It wasn't a horrible disaster like I used to. So I'm gonna go ahead and grind the tops off this, hammer it a little bit, and then grind it smooth, and then we'll get it cut to fit. All right, let's go see how it fits. Okay, little pieces added on, and there's the ledge right there, so it's going to sit down right where it starts to flatten out. There's the original filler panel, so we have just enough meat right there. We'll trim that right across there, so it's looking pretty good. Now, I want to make sure the panel is in exact the spot I want it, and then I'll probably put a clamp down in here to kind of hold it in place while I scribe. I don't want anything to move. We'll just kind of, clamp it like that and make sure it's held in place. But I want to make sure the panel's exactly where, it's supposed to be, because if it moves just 1/16 of an inch, then your gaps get really big, really tough to weld. So let me fine tune all this. I'll crawl up underneath, we'll get a scribe on it, and then we start cutting the panel, start fitting this side up. Okay, let's get this cut. Now we're going to need to cut farther back on this piece later. So all I'm going to do is just aim for my line right here, and then go ahead and cut along this. I've got a smaller cutoff wheel. I always save my small ones that are worn out because you can cut a little bit tighter radius with them. So we're going to get this done. Spinning out a little wide, I made it just screwed up a little bit. I'm going to finish the rest with a Dremel. We can get in there a lot tighter. Okay, let me file that a little bit, or maybe not. Let's go test fit it first because I think I went a little wide on that side. So let's go test fit it. Okay, it looks like I just lucked out. It just needs a little more trimming, just a little bit of cleanup to get that to drop down in there. Once we make this flush with that, then we could tack that on there and then eventually weld it all the way. But we're looking pretty good. So let's keep at it. I'm not going to show, I'm just going to keep sanding and trial fitting until that matches that radius. So bring it back when I get this to fit pretty good. All right, that didn't take much. I just had to trim a little bit here and just a little cleanup in the corner. I've got a light back behind there. See if I can show you the gap. You see the gap right there with the light coming through? Not perfect, but it's pretty tight. It's really tight right here. So I'm really liking it. It's touching right here. It actually clicked in right there. So that's perfectly flush right now. If we were ready, we could weld that right there, but we aren't ready. So the next step is the piece that's up underneath here. So there's a little piece left of that goes down this way that we need to get that little black piece out so we can weld it there and weld it down in that corner and call it good, because that connects all this together. So I don't want to try to cut that out. I want to cut it out of the new filler panel. So let me lift it out, show you what we got to do, and then we can't really scribe it. We're just going to have to take some measurements and then kind of guess a little bit. Okay, I did some work to clean this up. So I squared that cut off right there and flattened that out. There was a spot weld sticking up. So I got that all cleaned up. I don't know if you can notice, but it goes there and then it goes straight up. So what we're going to do is we're going to put the filler panel back in, and I'm going to use that vertical piece right there to know where this scribe should go. And then on this side, we can scribe from underneath to get this line, and then all we're going to have to do is just continue that on out once we pull the panel out and flip it over. So let's get it back in, get some scribing done, and we got to cut a little notch out of that filler panel. Okay, we got it scribed along here from underneath, and then I just kind of extrapolated the line out to here, and here's where our other one was. I scribed it on this side and then transferred it to this side. So all we have to do is make a cut along there and along here and trial fit it. All right, let me clean that up a little bit and we'll go test fit it. Okay, so we got it in there. It's still sitting way too high right here, and I think it needs to drop down a little bit, and I do believe we need to bend this up to get this to drop down. But our cuts are looking really good. See, that's the one we just made right there. I think I need to take a little bit more off the bottom because I think it's bottoming out against this one right here, but we can bend that around and grind that. But I think for sure we're way too high. You know, that's supposed to be down here in the corner. So we've got, geez, 3/16 or so or more to get this to settle down. But let me trim this up a little bit. Bending this up will let that go down, so I'm not too worried about that. But yeah, let me pull this up. I want to clean that up a little bit. Then we're going to start tweaking on this sheet metal a little bit, see if we can get this corner to go down where it belongs. All right, I figured out why this wouldn't sit down. So this piece right here, you see all the brazing in there. I've removed most of it, but there's a big blob of brazing up underneath there. I don't know if you guys can see it, but look how this is angled right here. This goes way too flat. So let's look at the other side. Okay, you can see this side right here. See how it drops off? A pretty steep angle right there. It's not 90, but it's certainly not laying down like the other one. Okay, so that's holding that up, and I can't get that to go down because that big ball of brazing that's up underneath that sheet metal. I've tried to dig it out. I try to grind it out with the Dremel. I'm just going to have to take the burr tool and kind of grind this face off right here. There is sheet metal underneath it, the other layers, so I'm not too worried about it. If I have to reconstruct this whole area, that's what I have to do. So I got to get this so that panel will fit flush right across here. So let me, I'm going to grab the burr tool here and just kind of machine this off very little at a time and see if we can't get that to have the right angle. All right, oh man, This panel has been off the car, on and off the car 8 times since you saw it last, but we've got it fitting pretty good. We look right down through there. It's sitting down, it's sitting flush right here. It's looking really good, and I'm pretty happy with the way it's looking. The thing is, these filler panels, these repops, are not the same as factory. Now, I'm lucky enough to have a piece of the factory one. This is the piece I cut off for the filler panel for the top there. And you see how it fits right there? I get to keep that in focus. But this corner right here is totally different on an OEM panel than a repop. Now, these all have a little bit of a, I don't know if you guys can see that in the light. See that roll right there? It comes along flat and then it starts rolling up for its travel up the sail panel. That's supposed to be there. But on the factory one, that one stops right about here, okay? Right where it starts dropping off here, that roll stops and it flattens out, and actually this corner rolls down a little bit. Whereas this one, you can see it, it comes all the way down to the end and actually pushes that corner up a little high. I mean, this is the world we live in, you know, we can't get OEM filler panels, so, and this one wasn't the highest quality, most expensive one, but you don't know till you buy them, and I'm so deep into this one now, I gotta stick with it. So, but it's fitting, it's looking pretty good, pretty happy. Now, this filler panel, like I spoke of before, it's a little short on this distance, so I opted to line it up perfectly here, because obviously the trunk goes along here and then comes back around, right? So I shorted myself a little bit on this end, and if you guys can see, as soon as the light comes up, I've got the molding in there and it's spaced out, so we've got a little bit of a divot there, but I can fill that no problem and make that look good. That's easy on that side. Over here, I couldn't do it because the length of the trunk lid, when that trunk lid's laying on there, I want my body lines to be perfectly the same all the way around. And if I was short here, I couldn't make that happen. So it's a trade-off. You just got to pick your battles, you know. So the next thing we got to do is figure out how to connect this to that, because now I'm underneath. I'm stuck underneath. So let me change the angle on the camera, and we'll talk about that right now. Okay, so now that we've got this sitting in the right height and all this is looking pretty good over here, this piece is actually slid under the original piece right here, which is a good thing. Because that gives me some more material, you know, up underneath here to try to fix this, you know, because it is, I don't know if you guys can see that, but this thing is sticking up a lot higher than that, and that's no good. So what we got to do is I've scribed this piece right here, so when I pull it out, I know how much material is actually sticking underneath there, and then we can figure out how much we can trim off of this piece, and then kind of maybe hammer and dolly that over till it meets this one. And then when it's welded, it'll be a corner weld, and then I can grind that and shape it to match that right there. And so it just comes all the way around the corner. And as you can see, it didn't fit so great from the factory, right? So even, you know, OEM panels weren't that great, especially in a trunk channel. So, I mean, fit and finish in 1967 wasn't what it is today, obviously. So we're gonna try to work around this. Now, I don't know how much I can grind off here, and I could probably lay that over a little bit, but I want to try to make it match so this line looks like it just is seamless all the way through back over to this one. So let's pull the panel off and see how much meat we got to work with, and we'll come over here and trim some of this off. Okay, I got it scribed, and you can see we've got some to give over here, almost nothing in the middle and a little bit on the end. So I've got a Sharpie mark on here, try to match that. I'm going to go ahead and grind that, and then even try to dolly this over a little bit and lay this down up against here a little bit more. And then we're just going to fit it up and see if we can make this match and get this down a little bit, and then get this to all flow together. Okay, I've got it clamped right here so I could get in with a little bit smaller clamp. I've got that trimmed back. This piece I got that trimmed back, and it's actually matching that radius pretty good. The only problem is this piece is lower. Now I can raise this up to meet it and then spot weld it over here. That's no problem, but I would rather have that down where it belongs and have this flow right through here nice and smooth. So what we're going to do is I'm going to hold a dolly up underneath here, right here, and support this piece right underneath here, and then I'm going to take the hammer and I'm going to use the small end, and I'm just going to slowly tap on that and try to get that to roll down. it's going to lay over a little bit, and I'm going to try to get that radius to roll down. And then I can maybe possibly trim some more off and keep rolling it down until the height of this is the height right here, and then we're a little bit smoother on this end. So let me go ahead and give that a shot here. Okay, that seems to be working. I need to move this clamp out of the way, maybe get the panel out of the way, and really get that work down good. So let me take care of that, and I'll bring you back, and we'll take a look at it, see if we made any progress. Okay, we got it. Woohoo! So this is fitting up really nice right along this face. We've got the corner down where it belongs, and it's sitting right here. And this is just about perfect. I got this to push over so it's a little bit closer like it should have been from the factory, and I was able to hammer that down and roll it over. Now it is just still slightly high, but what will happen is when I do my final weld up, this will melt down as I weld going around here, and then I can just grind that into a really nice clean radius like here and have it come all the way over to here. So I think that's going to work out great. We're just going to have to wait for that when we do. Once the underside's epoxied, then we can get this welded in, and that'll be really good. So the last thing to do is do the other side, and I'm not going to show any of that. Hopefully everything I learned on this side, it'll make that side go so much better, more of the same, or actually hopefully less of the same, and we can bust it out. So let me get the other side done, and I'll bring you back, and we'll take a look at everything. All right, got it done. This side's so much easier than the other side, and I'm not kidding, guys. I'm not exaggerating. Just under 15 minutes to get this done. The other side, hours and hours, over 3 hours, maybe 4 hours on that other side. So, you know, it just goes to show the second one's a lot easier, but this side was in so much better condition. You know, I didn't have to fiddle with all this stuff. It sat down fairly easy, and of course, I knew what I was doing compared to the other side. So I followed the same thing I did. So I cut that back and then I scribed it to it, and that's looking really good. It's notched in over here, so it needs to be welded up and around. Of course, it's going to get spot welded here, and then of course, you know, tack welded along that seam underneath. But the lines are all looking good. The panel's looking really good. Let's go look at the other side. This is all still working out really nice. So I'm really happy to get this done. This side was pretty challenging. I'm not kidding. It was frustrating, but we got it done. And some guys may say, well, Mark, come on, you're doing a lot of work. The weather strip goes in here, the trunk's closed, and you'll see a lot of these that are slathered with seam sealer or body filler just to cover up the mess. I don't want to do that kind of work on Ruby. I want it to look just as nice on the inside as it does on the outside. So I'm going to spend the time doing this kind of work. And when you start cutting corners doing this, it usually comes back to bite you in the butt. And then you end up spending more time, you know, doing other stuff because you cut a few corners. So it's worth it for me. And plus, I'm showing you guys the, you know, the struggles I go through, and you may go through the same thing on replacing a filler panel on a GMA body. Okay guys, that pretty much wraps up this video on getting the filler panel final fitment up onto Ruby. And if we were ready, I could weld it in right now, but we aren't ready. So I got to get a little epoxy on these parts on the undersides, then we can put it on. But we're getting really close to spraying some epoxy. I'm really excited about that. But I'll be straight with you guys today. It was frustrating for me. That side kicked my butt. I was scratching my head, really trying to figure this out. And in my mind, I kept trying to blame the filler panel. You know, this crappy repop, it's all its fault. It wasn't really the repop's fault. It was, you know, the work that was done in 1966, 67, when they blobbed all that brazing up in there to try to make that work, you know. And it just took me a while to figure out that, hey, you got to grind all this crap out of the way before that thing's going to sit down like it's supposed to. And that's the way it goes on these old cars. One side could be really nice, the other side could be horrible. So you kind of got to roll with it and sneak up on the solution. It'll show itself sooner or later. Just take your time, be methodical. Well, we're really good on this. I'm looking forward to getting some of these parts prepped and getting some epoxy sprayed, so look for that on the next video. Thanks for joining me here at Foothill Paint and Fabrication. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button if you haven't already. Mash that bell and drop me a comment. I'd love to hear from you. We'll see you on the next one.